November 19, 1942, Stalingrad. The soldier's hands will not stop shaking. He tells himself it is the cold. The temperature has dropped to -15 degrees Celsius overnight, and the ruins offer no shelter from the wind screaming off the Volga. But he knows the truth. His hands shake because he is strapping a canvas satchel across his chest, and this satchel contains his death. The bag itself is deceptively simple. Weathered olive canvas, reinforced at the stress points with the double stitching that has already begun to fray. 2 leather straps with brass buckles, the kind salvaged from equipment harnesses. The whole assembly measures approximately 30 centimeters in length, 20 centimeters in width. It weighs 5 kilograms. Inside the canvas, 4 blocks of TNT wrapped in waxed paper, each block weighing 1 kilogram. 2 RGD-33 fragmentation grenades have been wired into the main charge to amplify the blast effect and create additional shrapnel. The friction fuse, a Uzi RGM type, protrudes from the top of the satchel with its braided pull cord dangling against his ribs like a second heartbeat. His name is Alexei Mikhailovich Sokolov. He is 21 years old. He has been in Stalingrad for 6 weeks and 4 days. In that time, he has watched the city transform from recognizable streets and buildings into a landscape that belongs to no human geography. The Barricade factory where his father once worked is now a skeletal framework of twisted steel. The apartment blocks where his aunt lived are compressed into layers of concrete and rebar like a collapsed accordion. The very air tastes of brick dust and cordite and something else he cannot name but knows is death. 2 blocks away, grinding through the rubble with mechanical inevitability, comes the reason for the satchel. A Panzer III, 23 tons of German engineering, 5 crew members sealed inside hardened steel. The mathematics are simple enough that even a factory worker turned soldier can calculate them. The tank weighs 23,000 kilograms. Alexei weighs 62 kilograms. The satchel weighs 5 kilograms. The combined explosive force of the TNT and grenades equals approximately 10 pounds of TNT equivalent, enough to crack an engine block, enough to rupture fuel tanks, enough to sever track assemblies if placed correctly. The word "if" carries considerable weight. The Panzer's armor ranges from 30 millimeters on the side plates to 50 millimeters on the frontal glacis. Impenetrable to the PTRD anti-tank rifles that have become little more than expensive clubs in the rubble fighting. Impenetrable to the grenades the infantry carry. Impenetrable to everything the Soviet defenders have left in this sector except this canvas bag and the man willing to deliver it. Alexei has watched 11 other men carry these satchels toward German tanks in the past 3 weeks. 3 came back. 1 was missing both legs below the knee but was technically alive when they dragged him to the aid station. The other 2 walked back under their own power with expressions that suggested they had seen something on the other side of fear that had no name in Russian or any other language. The political officer who briefed them on the satchel charge missions used words like heroic and necessary and the motherland requires. Alexei barely heard him. He was watching the Panzer through a gap in the rubble, watching how it moved, how it paused, how its turret traversed when searching for targets. He was learning its rhythm the way a hunter learns the patterns of dangerous prey. Except in this hunt, the prey weighs 23 tons and breathes fire, and the hunter carries 5 kilograms of canvas-wrapped death strapped to his chest. The officer finished his briefing with a question that was not really a question. Who volunteers? 12 hands went up. Alexei's was one of them. Not because he is brave, not because he believes in the political officer's speeches, but because he has done the only calculation that matters in Stalingrad anymore. The Panzer will keep killing until something stops it. Nothing they have can stop it except this. So this is what remains. The satchel is strapped tight across his chest now. The pull cord is secured with a simple slip knot that will release with one sharp tug. The friction fuse requires 8 to 10 kilograms of pull force to ignite. After ignition, he will have 4 to 6 seconds before detonation. 4 to 6 seconds to clear 15 meters of separation if he wants to survive the blast radius. The Panzer is getting closer. September 13, 1942. The day the Wehrmacht's 6th Army crashed into Stalingrad with 430 tanks, the Soviet defenders possessed what military planners considered adequate anti-armor defenses. The PTRD-41 anti-tank rifle, a single-shot, bolt-action weapon stretching 2 meters in length and weighing 17 kilograms, could theoretically penetrate 40 millimeters of armor at 100 meters under ideal conditions. Its 14.5 millimeter round traveled at 112 meters per second and delivered approximately 32,000 joules of kinetic energy on impact. On paper, these specifications were sufficient to defeat the side armor of most German tanks. Stalingrad offered no paper. It offered rubble and ruins and combat distances measured in meters rather than hundreds of meters. The PTRD crews discovered what physicists could have predicted, and what soldiers learned through blood. Armor penetration is not a fixed value but a variable dependent on angle of impact, range, and the specific metallurgical properties of the target. A 14.5 millimeter round striking the angled side armor of a Panzer III at 20 meters might penetrate if it hit at 90 degrees. If it struck at any other angle, the round sparked off the hardened steel and went screaming into the ruins as a ricochet that was as likely to kill the shooter's comrades as the enemy. The effective target area, the places where the PTRD could reliably penetrate, shrank to vision ports roughly the size of a man's fist and track links that required precision shooting under combat conditions. Precision shooting while being suppressed by machine gun fire and high explosive rounds from the tank's main gun. The casualty rate among PTRD crews in the first week of urban combat exceeded 60%. By the end of September, the surviving crews were either remarkably skilled or remarkably lucky, and Stalingrad was consuming both qualities at an unsustainable rate. Artillery offered no solution. The Soviet batteries that had lined the western approaches to the city were systematically destroyed by Luftwaffe dive bombers in the first 72 hours. The remaining guns were forced to operate from positions across the Volga, firing over open sights at ranges where accuracy became a statistical prayer rather than a tactical certainty. Soviet tank reserves existed but were being committed piecemeal in a meat grinder that destroyed armor faster than the factories could replace it. By mid-October, the 62nd Army, compressed into a strip of ruins barely 4 kilometers wide along the Volga riverbank, faced a crisis that could not be solved by conventional means. German armor was advancing with near-mechanical impunity through sectors where Soviet infantry had no answer except to die in place or retreat. Retreat meant the Volga. The Volga meant the end. Someone in the Soviet command structure, the exact identity remains disputed among military historians, made a decision that would define urban anti-tank warfare for the next 80 years. If conventional weapons cannot stop the Panzers, then unconventional weapons would have to suffice. Soviet engineers began producing satchel charges in basement workshops, field depots, and anywhere a work table and basic tools could be assembled. The design was brutally simple because it had to be. Complexity meant points of failure, and failure meant German tanks rolling over Soviet positions unopposed. Canvas bags were salvaged from medical supply pouches, ammunition carriers, even civilian luggage abandoned in the ruins. Leather straps came from equipment harnesses, belts, anything that could bear 5 kilograms of weight without tearing. The explosive filler varied based on availability. TNT blocks from demolition stocks, RDX when captured, German supplies could be scavenged. Occasionally improvised mixtures of ammonium nitrate and fuel oil that were as dangerous to manufacture as they were to deploy. Friction fuses, the UZRGM type used for standard grenades, provided the detonation mechanism. Pull the cord, wait 4 to 6 seconds, detonate. The production time for a single satchel charge, assuming materials were available, ran approximately 15 minutes. The expected operational lifespan of the soldier carrying it was significantly less than that. But the Soviet command was no longer calculating in terms of individual survival. They were calculating in terms of stopped tanks, and by that metric, the satchel charge offered a return on investment that no other weapon system could match. One man, 5 kilograms of explosives. One German tank neutralized or destroyed. The arithmetic was simple. The human cost was catastrophic. The tactical necessity was absolute. Volunteers for satchel charges were briefed in dim basements with officers who had survived previous missions. The tactical problem was simple. A Panzer tank moves at around 6 kilometers per hour through urban ruins, with limited visibility and blind spots. These blind spots, particularly beside and behind the tank, were exploitable. A soldier could slip into these zones to deliver a 5-kilogram explosive charge. The approach required patience and timing. Soldiers would hide, often for hours, in rubble, waiting for the tank's distraction, usually when it was firing its main gun. Once the tank was focused, soldiers had 3 to 5 seconds to move. Then, they would place the charge on vulnerable points like the engine deck or tracks. A well-placed charge could immobilize the tank or destroy it. After setting the charge, the soldier would pull the fuse, igniting it with a hiss before rushing to cover. The expected blast radius was about 20 meters. Many soldiers didn't survive this risky task with a high casualty rate. On September 13, 1942, the Germans advanced with over 400 tanks. The Soviet response was limited, and conventional weapons were ineffective. Faced with this, Soviet engineers created simple but deadly satchel charges. 5 kilograms of explosives in a canvas bag carried by one soldier could destroy a tank at a tragic human cost. By late November 1942, German tank commanders began reporting a phenomenon that had no precedent in armored warfare doctrine. Panzers discovered satchel charges attached to their hulls that had failed to detonate. Someone had been close enough to touch their vehicle while they sat inside, unaware and alive only through mechanical failure rather than skill. Soviet records document 43 confirmed tank kills by satchel charges between October 15th and November 30th in the Stalingrad sector. The actual number was certainly higher. But the impact extended beyond destroyed vehicles. German armor that had advanced with mechanical confidence now required infantry screens. Commanders refused to enter sectors where satchel charge teams had operated. The advance slowed from kilometers per day to meters per hour. The cost was catastrophic. Casualty rates among volunteers exceeded 75%. Of 237 men who carried satchel charges in the tractor factory district, 184 were killed. But those deaths bought time. Every hesitating tank remained in the kill zone longer. Every slowed advance gave reinforcements hours to cross the Volga. The canvas satchel with leather straps was not sophisticated. It was desperate. But in Stalingrad, where desperation was the only unlimited resource, it became the weapon that taught predators to fear their prey.